Welcome to our YouTube channel, where wisdom meets inspiration. In this channel, we share valuable insights to help you become the best version of yourself. Our content is designed to uplift your spirit and enrich your life. Make sure to subscribe to our channel to stay connected with this incredible journey. Click the subscribe button below.
Today's topic is overcoming fear. Before we try to understand what is fear and how to overcome it, we should understand how fear is caused. The human body, according to Vedanta and also according to science, has various dimensions. The human being has various dimensions. The first dimension being the physical body. Then the vital breath or breath, called in Sanskrita as prana. Then comes the mind. Then comes the intellect. And finally, according to Vedanta, it is the Anandamaya Kosha, or the sheath of, or the layer of bliss, where you experience joy because of different interactions with different objects. So fear is caused at all these levels. And no matter at what level fear is caused, it percolates or spreads to all other levels. Let us see how fear is caused at the body level. In the body, as we know, there are two kinds of actions. One is voluntary actions, just like I am talking to you. And the second kind is involuntary actions, like heartbeat, breathing, so on and so forth. Now, at the level of the body, when the body finds itself to have problems with some kind of functioning of the body, it can be heartbeat, it can be breathing, it can be some other problem or some infection by a foreign body to the body gets afraid. And it has various ways to respond to that fear. One common way is sweating. Another way is palpitation or rapid heartbeat. And another way is increase of temperature. Also, pain is also a way body responds to some kind of fear, some kind of anticipation of a problem. That is how fear occurs at the body level. Because of the bodily functions, most of the functions are involuntary functions. Then what happens, or how does fear occur at the breath level or at the prana level? When we are unable to breathe, when we feel suffocated, when there is drop of oxygen in the environment, or when we are unable to breathe fresh air. This feeling one might have experienced when one is traveling in the car or in some such closed vehicle, and many people are traveling along with you, and suddenly you feel suffocated. That is when you experience fear at the level of breath or at the level of vital energy, prana. Then we come to the plane where fear is experienced no matter where it is caused, and that is the plane of mind. So mind experiences fear because of various reasons. We will see all the reasons later on. But the main reason why mind experiences fear is when it feels that it will lose its identity, lose its, to borrow a Sanskrit word, astitva, its identity or its very existence. Then mind feels afraid. And the fourth level of the human existence is intellect. And there, how does one feel fear? When you feel that you do not know, Most of us have experienced this when we have come across an examination paper where we don't know the solution or answer to a particular question, or somebody is asking us some question and we, in an interview scenario, we don't know the answer and we feel afraid. Then comes the final covering or the final layer of human personality, that is Anandamaya Kosha. Now, by the definition itself, Anandamaya Kosha is a layer where you experience Ananda, joy. But there also, sometimes, because it is at the level of bondage, at the level of ignorance, where you don't really know your true nature, there also, when you feel that this joy will end, that is when you are afraid. So when you are eating ice cream or chole bhature, whatever you like, when you feel that that is going to end and you have this anxiety, where will I get the next dose or the next portion of ice cream or chole bhature, that is when you feel afraid. So we just now saw various layers of human personality and how fear can be caused at that personality. However, no matter at what level or what layer fear is caused, it is always experienced at the level of the mind. And now we will see why mind experiences fear. The first thing why mind experiences fear is because of lack of knowledge. Always the unknown causes fear. We have all experienced when we have to walk in the night on the road, and if there is a street or an alley or a lane where there is not enough light and it is dark, we naturally experience, not all of you, but most people experience fear there. Why? Because we do not know what is lurking in the darkness. We don't know what might pounce upon us from the darkness. Nothing might, but we do not know. And as we know, there are stories and legends of endless creatures coming out of darkness, which we have been told since our childhood. Some boogeyman will come, somebody will come and will pounce upon you from the darkness. All this comes because of the fear of unknown. That fear we have experienced also when you go to some institution, maybe a library, maybe a hospital, and you see a particular corridor of that institution where many people are not there, or it is dimly lit, and sometimes even if it is properly lit, because many people are not there, you don't want to go there because you really don't know what will happen there. Like the corridor leading to a mortuary in the hospital. So all these instances, all these situations are situations where one is afraid because of the unknown. Same is the situation when you face technology, new technology. At the advent of computers or internet or the smartphone technology, even today many people are afraid. They think that something will go wrong, that the computer will act funny, etc., as though the computer or the smartphone has its own brain, etc., because they don't know what is going on in the background. So the fear of the unknown probably can explain most incidents of fear that we experience in a day. Then there is the fear of death. In fact, one teacher long ago asked a group of students, he asked this question, tell me how many of you are not afraid of death, or how many of you are afraid of death? And the group of students were so petrified, so terrified that they did not even raise their hands. So they were so much afraid of death. To even talk about death, we all know that in a family or when we are talking with friends or relatives, if somebody says, when I die, then immediately everybody will say, oh, don't say this. Why would you die, etc. Don't tell that. All these unholy, evil things, inauspicious things, don't bring to your lips. So, death is a constant cause for fear. When you anticipate death, you are afraid. One can see this in the hospitals where people get admitted And if the doctor says, or if they themselves feel that they are about to die, then they suddenly change their behavior, they become all loving to people. Or if there is a long cherished or long nurtured grudge against anybody, then they want to meet that person and maybe finish the grudge. And we understand that ending of life or the end of life is a big fear. That's why even people, of course there is nothing funny about it, but unfortunately when people try to end their lives, many people stop short of ending it because of they are afraid of death, their fear of death. So fear of death is one of the most common and widespread fear, which we also experience in dream. In fact, all fears we experience both in the waking state and also in the dreaming state. Whatever happens in the waking state, we experience in the dreaming state. Only in the dreaming state, things change rapidly, and also there everything is happening within your mind, not externally. Then there is fear of limit, fear of paucity or shortage. That is a fear which we can relate when we have fear of our wealth coming to an end, when we will lose all money or our money will not be sufficient. That fear. So this fear is basically a fear of things coming to an end, much like the fear of death, but only here the fear is about things, about material things. Shortage. You think you don't have enough water. You think you don't have enough food, enough clothing. You don't have enough books for study, and like that. So this finitude is a cause of fear. Limit is a cause of fear. That's why we are afraid when we see something huge. If we were to come across a huge animal, maybe an elephant, we are afraid immediately because the very size of that creature, the very size of that animal frightens us. That is a cause of fear. Then there is fear of darkness also, because it is also the fear of unknown. And the fear of the other, that is another fear, which is also the cause of most fears. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad will say, Dvitiyat vai bhayam bhavati. Indeed, it is because of the other that fear occurs. What does it mean? When you consider someone different from yourself, when you consider someone separate from yourself, then you experience fear. When you consider something separate from yourself, you experience fear. So the Upanishad is telling us that the root cause of fear is differentiation. When you think that there is something or someone other than you, that causes fear. In fact, it does not only cause fear, it causes all the range of human emotions like jealousy, hatred, love, etc. Only when you think or when you imagine or when you see someone or something other than you, that is when that happens. So this is one of the biggest cause or the root cause of all fear. So now how do we solve this problem of fear? How do we go beyond being afraid? How we transcend fear, overcome fear? That is the question. First thing we have to understand is being afraid is normal. If we consider fear to be something that has to be completely wiped off, that has to be completely removed from our life, that anxiety, that anticipation will itself be cause of fear. So first we have to understand that fear is something normal. At a humane level, it is normal to be afraid. Only when we accept that, then we will be strong enough to overcome fear. So this should be our first step, to understand that it is normal to be afraid. Then, as we were talking about fear happening at different layers of our personality, first if we take body, then one way to overcome fear at the body level is to understand the limited nature of the body. Human body, though it is an excellent example of what nature can do, is nonetheless limited. And so, you cannot do everything using the human body. This we should understand. And also, among human beings, no two people have the same kind of body. So there are different bodies with different abilities. One person may be able to paint a wonderful painting, another one may be an athlete, another one may be able to carry huge loads. So the human body itself has different capabilities, differing from person to person. That we have to also come to terms with, that one cannot do everything using the human body. Having said that, we should remember, as in the Yoga Sutras of Maharishi Patanjali and also in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, it is told that if you want to keep your body in such a position that it should not bother you, then you have to keep your body healthy. One of the benefits of having a healthy body, according to Maharishi Patanjali, is that you will not have body consciousness. You can imagine a person having knee pain. If that person wants to sit down or sit for a long time and meditate or pray, cannot do, because the knee pain will draw that person's attention to that person's body. So one way to tackle the fear that arises from the body level is to maintain a healthy body, a healthy regimen of sleep, moderate sleep, or what is sufficient, that sleep, and moderate food, moderate exercise, and moderate work, as is prescribed by Sri Krishna in the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. That will remove many causes or many instances of fear from the body, but one has to always remember that the body is perishable. That is the only thing certain in our lives, that is death. According to Sri Krishna, whatever is born will have death. Jatasya hi dhruvam mrityuhu. It is certain that whatever is born will have death. So we have to again understand this and accept it mentally. And so, if we run a fever, if we catch cold, if we become tired, all these should be handled without getting afraid at the body level. Then we come to prana, fear which is caused at the level of prana, which was experienced recently in the world shaking COVID pandemic. Most people who suffered and died because of COVID experienced great fear because of the inability to breathe properly. They were unable to breathe properly. And so that causes fear. How do we get out of this? How do we overcome this? Again, understanding that breath is limited. It is told in the Ayurvedic texts that the number of breaths for a human being is limited, and it depends on how well you breathe. So the economy of breathing, a person, one who can breathe in a sustained manner, can live longer. Slower breaths and elongated breaths can live longer. And a person who has this habit of breathing rapidly, that person has a relatively short life. So according to Indian texts on medicine, that is Ayurveda texts, the amount of breath for a human life is limited, and a person who has sustained or regulated breath, longer breathing cycles, that person will live longer, and a person who has rapid breathing cycles will have a relatively shorter life. So there comes this practice of prana ayama, which is called pranayama. Pranayama means training or regularizing or exercising your breath. Prana is breath. Ayama means to regulate or restrain or control or train. So pranayama means regulating your breath. That has to be practiced, and also ensuring that you have some way to get exposure to places and environments where you get more oxygen in the atmosphere. Suppose you are living in an urban setup or a semi-urban setup where generally the air is more polluted, then at least once in a year or twice in a year, you need to move to a place where there is much fresh air, like the mountains and or rural areas, and then you need to stay there for some days. That really helps your lungs. So this is another way how we can overcome fear at the prana level, at the breath level. Then comes the mind. And one interesting way how you can overcome fear at the mind level is that we have to understand that fear is caused by ignorance, not knowing about things. That is the main cause of fear. So not knowing the nature of mind causes fear. What is the nature of mind? Every day, according to Indian philosophy and also according to Vedanta, every day we lose our minds, not in the sense of the English word where losing your minds means your mind goes unbalanced, but you lose your mind means the mind dies. Every day this happens. When you are in the waking state, you have your mind functioning. When you go to dream state, that is called swapna in Sanskrita, you use the mind, only your mind is functioning. And when you go to deep sleep state or sushupti, then your mind stops functioning. And it is interesting how every day this happens, and again you come back to the waking state or the dreaming state, and again every day you go into deep sleep state. So that means the mind by its very nature is perishable. This we have to understand, because every day it is perishing. And also it is not essential for our existence, because if the mind were essential for your existence, then every day the mind is dying, where in deep sleep you cannot see, you cannot think, you cannot use your gross body, physical body, you don't remember anything when you come back from the deep sleep. That means your mind is not existing, because the nature of mind is sankalpa vikalpa atmika. The nature of mind is which will think, which will cogitate, which will ideate. There is a word in English called mentation, which will create thought. That is the nature of mind. That process, none of these processes happen in deep sleep. But yet you are alive. Every day you go to deep sleep and you don't have any of these processes. Today neuroscience tells us that such activity does not happen. If you look at the EEG, electroencephalogram of a person who is in deep sleep, you understand that such things are not happening, but still that person comes back to dreaming sleep or waking condition. So that means mind itself, as we know, is not necessary. Again, here we have to understand that in Indian philosophies or Eastern philosophies, mind is different from the physical brain. Whereas according to most philosophy or according to science in the West, mind and brain are same. Some people would say that mind emerges from the brain. So here though your body is there, though your brain is working, your mind is not working, but that is okay, because again you come back to waking state or dreaming state. So understanding the nature of mind, that it is not essential for us in a day-to-day activity, it can be away or it can be switched off for some time, and yet we will be continue to existing. Though our life itself is limited, but still it does not have this essential characteristic that it is necessary all the time, that we have to understand. So mind every day goes into a condition of not working, and then again it comes back. That we have to understand. If we understand that, then we can overcome fear, which happens at the level of mind. Then we have fear which happens at the level of intellect. There again we should understand the limited nature of our intellect. We cannot know everything. How do we understand that? If you have a library in your neighborhood, please visit that library every day, or at least once in a week or twice in a week, whenever you can, and you will immediately understand that it is impossible to fathom the vast range of human knowledge. Whatever humankind has produced cannot be understood at all. Forget about the entire range of knowledge. Even one particular field cannot be studied by a human being in one lifetime. So when you encounter the vastness of this human knowledge, then you understand that your puny intellect, your small intellect, cannot really know whatever is there. Like we know today, Albert Einstein was very good in physics, but he was not so good in languages probably, because his mark list shows that. So there were many subjects which he was not good at, but he becomes no less a scientist because of that. So there is a limit to what you can know, and to understand that and come to terms with that will cause you great relief, and you can go beyond fear coming from the intellect. Now we come to the fear which is caused by, or which is caused at the level of Anandamaya Kosha. Before that, we have to understand why this layer of human personality is called Anandamaya Kosha. Anandamaya Kosha is the last or outermost layer. So human being in ignorance has been imagined to be covered with 5 layers, and the 5th layer is the closest to one's true nature, and that is Anandamaya Kosha. Now this Anandamaya Kosha is where you for some time experience joy when you get something which you were wanting. That is, some sense object you get which you wanted, and when you experience that sense object, you get joy. You experience joy. That is what this Anandamaya Kosha is. That joy is Anandamaya Kosha. But this joy is being experienced at the level of ignorance. It is not being experienced at the level of knowledge. Ignorance of your true nature. How do you experience this joy? That is the question. So suppose you like, say, ice cream. You scream, I want ice cream, then ice cream comes to you, or you buy ice cream. When you buy ice cream, you eat ice cream. Maybe you were craving for this ice cream for a long time, you eat it. For a small interval of time, you feel joy. Then immediately you will come to the conclusion that it is the ice cream which brought you joy. But for a minute, let us think that it was ice cream that brought you joy. But if you were given the same ice cream again and again, you had one scoop of ice cream, then another scoop, then another scoop, there will come a point in time when you will not be able to take any more ice cream. So then you will scream that you don't want ice cream. So that means if the ice cream was the cause of your joy, now it is the cause of your sorrow. So definitely ice cream was not the cause of your joy. Then what caused joy when you got ice cream? For some time you felt very joyous. That was caused by the condition of your mind where it did not have any thought. Whenever we want something, we have a thought and we are thinking about that thing that which we want. And so then we have this great craving, and when we get that, immediately mind, because it got what it wanted, it has no thought for some small period of time, maybe a split second or 1 second, the mind has no thought. And then because mind has no thought, just like in the deep sleep state, you feel joyous. So this period of time is compared by Bhagavad Shankaracharya to the gap in a necklace or in a piece of ornament which you use, where there are a lot of beads. In the rosary also, where there are a lot of beads, mala, and there is this thread which has been used to string that beads together, those beads together. That thread is visible in between two beads, and that thread, Shankaracharya calls it sandhi, that in between visible thread. And he says that your true nature becomes visible when you are experiencing something which you craved for a long time. So that particular moment, if you can think about that moment for a longer time, it eventually becomes longer and longer, and you will come to a state where you don't have to actually experience any sense objects to experience that joy. So this dhyana is called by Shankaracharya as sandhi dhyana. So first, knowing that that joy is not caused by any sense objects, and also trying to increase the time of joy by not having thought, is the way you can overcome fear at the level of Anandamaya Kosha. Now we will go to the basic causes or the basic roots of fear itself. Let us again see at the mantra from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Dvitiyat vai bhayam bhavati. So it is indeed because of duality or because of seeing the other, perceiving the other, that you are afraid. Now let us look at some incidents from great saints. In fact, there is one incident which is common to many great saints. We have found this incident in the lives of almost all great saints. What is that incident? This saint is probably meditating in a forest, and a tiger or a lion comes there. That means a predator comes there, and the saint continues to meditate. The predator also comes and looks at the saint and goes away. This has happened in the lives of many people, but I will quote the example of Swami Swarupanandaji, who was one of the monastic disciples of Swami Vivekananda, and he was the first monastic editor of Prabuddha Bharata, a journal started by Swami Vivekananda in 1896. So he was in a Himalayan area which is called Mayavati, where Swami Vivekananda started a ashrama called Advaita Ashrama. He was meditating there, and then he saw a leopard which came and sat in front of him for a long time, and after some time it went away. Now he recounts this incident to another disciple of Swami Vivekananda. He recounts this incident to another disciple of Swami Vivekananda, that is Mrs. Sevier. So she was afraid, and she said, she was concerned, and she said, you should not meditate like that in the open, and she made a small enclosure so that Swami Swarupananda could go there and meditate. But why did the predator, as we see in numerous incidents from the lives of numerous saints, why did the predator not attack that saint? Here Swami Swarupananda. Because there was absolutely no idea, no bhava, no notion of separateness. Swarupanandaji did not think that the leopard is different from him, because they, or those saints, or in this case Swami Swarupanandaji, had realized the unity, the principle that there is only one principle, there is only one fundamental tattva or principle which is because of ignorance perceived as the many. So the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad tells us that whatever emotion or whatever feeling the human mind experiences and which eventually ends in suffering can be removed by understanding that you are different from nothing. There is nothing which is different from you. Ekameva advitiyam. This ultimate truth is that there is only one truth, and it is not, there is no second, there is no two. So that is why the definition of the ultimate reality according to Advaita Vedanta is a negative definition. It is Advaita, not two. It is not one, because when you say one, there automatically is zero and maybe also minus one. There is also in succession 2 and 3 and so on and so forth. But when you say not two, there is only one. And that is why if you do not see something other than you, then there is nobody who can do anything to you. There is nobody to whom you can do anything. Because even for the process of knowledge, there is what is called Triputi. That means the knower, the known, and the process of knowledge. For any action, you need this triad, these three things. A person who is doing something, on the object or the person to which that thing is being done, and the action which is being done. But when you realize that you are one and there is nothing different from you, then these three things disappear. The triputi goes away. Differentiation goes away. It's not surprising that across the world, throughout the history of mankind, people, humankind, throughout the history of humankind, people who have struggled to bring peace to society have always struggled for removing differences. If you talk about Shankaracharya, Adi Shankaracharya, or if you talk about Martin Luther King Jr., or if you talk about Gandhi, if you talk about Swami Vivekananda, everyone struggled and they strived to bring a society or an understanding of non-difference. Non-difference on account of various other causes maybe, but differentiation was removed. Only when you have this understanding, there is essentially nothing other than me. You can approach this problem through spirituality, and there are various faith traditions, religious traditions, philosophical, spiritual traditions, which will help you to attain this understanding. But you can also approach this problem through science, because today science tells us that the entire universe is composed of electrons, or even further dividing the subatomic particles. We have gone up to the Higgs boson, which is also called the God particle. So even according to physics, not going to faith, but going through science in its entirety, you understand that the entire universe is composed of the same material. Then there is nothing different from you essentially. What you see in yourself is what is there outside. In fact, in 1890, Swami Vivekananda, when he was wandering across the length and breadth of India, he meditated in a forest near the city Almora, and he understood that the microcosm and the macrocosm are one. That means what is there in your limited self and what is there in the universe are one. This understanding of oneness is what brings transcending from fear. This brings freedom from fear, because you cannot die. I would like to quote one story which is famous in Vedantic circles. There was rain, and 2 drops of rain, they were falling onto the ocean from a cloud. So one drop said, oh, I'm going to fall into the ocean, and then I'm afraid, because I will lose my individuality. The other drop said, why are you afraid? You are not going to lose your individuality, but you are going to become the ocean itself. So When we understand that we are not different from anyone, Swami Vivekananda makes a pun on this while giving one of his lectures of Jnana Yoga. He says, we are afraid to lose our individuality. He emphasizes that word. So when we think that we are losing our individuality, that is because of our ignorance. We are not losing individualities, but we are becoming greater. The very word Brahman, which is used for the ultimate reality in Advaita Vedanta, the root word of Brahman is Brahma, which means vast, infinite. And that infinite or that infinitude is what gives us true knowledge. It gives us true joy. And that's why the Upanishad will say that in Alpa there is no Sukham. That means in finitude there is no joy. It is only in the infinite that there is joy. So thinking of limitedness is what causes suffering, because we think we will die or the object which is in front of me will die. Only when we think that there will be a condition where I will be afraid or because of something getting exhausted. Today it is the mobile battery. We are always afraid that the mobile battery will be exhausted, and so we carry power banks with us all the time, or we are always constantly on the lookout to charge our battery. Because we are thinking that something will go away, we will lose something, there is something limited. But that is not the truth. You are the Atman, Satchit Ananda Swarupa. So your true nature is not limited. Swami Vivekananda famously said to a Western audience that you think of yourself as sinners, but that is not true, because you are heirs to immortality. To call the human being a sinner is a standing libel of human nature, Swami Vivekananda said. So it is not true that we are going to perish, because we in essence are greater than what is apparent. Our reality is greater than what is visible. Just like the reality of a mug or of a cup in front of you is greater than what is visible to you, because it is made up of electrons, and electrons are not going to perish. They will be always there. This understanding we have to arrive at. And when we understand this, then no boundaries will frighten us. Boundaries frighten us because we think we belong to boundaries. So at the practical level, at the Vyavaharika or practical level, that is at the level of transactions, at the level of dealings, we should have the common sense to understand that nobody or nothing in this world can do everything or can mean everything. Particularly in the case of relationships, everyone is afraid that one would lose a relationship because they think that relationship will go on forever. The relationship will not go on forever, because even if you were in the relationship, the moment somebody dies, that relationship ends. So nothing will go on forever. The limitedness or finitude of this universe should be understood at the pragmatic and practical level. And at the heart of hearts, you should understand that you are not truly this limited self, this limited body, limited breath, limited intellect. You are just a part of or a representation of that vast, great infinitude, which is also called Brahman. That we have to understand. When we understand this, then there will be no fear, as evidenced or as seen in the lives of many saints. And how do we understand that? To understand that, there is a process which has been followed by countless human beings across the history of humanity, and they have found results. The first step to understand this is called Viveka. Viveka is discernment, discerning what is real and what is unreal, discerning the true nature of things that you perceive, and also the person who perceives it, that is you. What is your true nature and what is the nature of the thing what you perceive? You have to constantly analyze and understand, try to understand that. When you do that, you understand who you are and also what you see. That's why Sri Ramakrishna said, religious life can be summed up in this manner. Understanding, Sri Ramakrishna says, understanding who God is and who you are and what is your connection between God and you, the connection between you. So he says, who am I, who you are, and what is our connection. To understand this is religious life, spiritual life. Or to put it in a rather philosophical language, to understand who you are, understand what is the nature of universe and what is the nature of God. That is religious life or philosophy. So when you understand this, you understand that what you think of losing or what you think of being a cause of fear is most of the times not existent, and most of the time that is how things are in the world. There is also another psychological way to overcome fear. When you are afraid of something and you start getting anxious, take down a pen and paper, pencil and paper, and write down what is the worst possible thing that can happen to you in that scenario. And try to prepare your mind to face that particular condition. When you do that, then your mind gets prepped for that condition, and then you are able to understand that that particular scenario may not be so bad after all. So, overcoming fear can be done by understanding the finitude of what is seen in this universe and by understanding the infinite nature of your own self. We can overcome fear by getting true knowledge of our true nature, of who I really am. And above everything, we can overcome fear by stop trying to find distinctions. Even at the societal level, at the level of society, if we stop segregating, if we stop separating, if we stop creating differentiations, distinctions, we will be having less and less of fear. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.